Hey everybody, Jim Powers with SB Live Missouri. Glad to have you with us as we continue talking to some of our outstanding coaches, making their way through the state playoffs. And what an incredible program that's been built down in Jackson, Missouri. And their head coach, Brent Eckley, joins me. And coach, first off, congratulations on a great season once again this year. Hasn't been quite as eventful as last year. We've been able to get all the games in with COVID and all that stuff. Talk a little bit about how the year has gone for you guys.
It's been good. We've had some really good kids, coming through the program, and they've been through a lot of games. So we've had some stability there. Some guys stepped up that had kind of waited their turn the last couple of years, and so they've had an opportunity to show what they can do and to contribute. We've had great support from our community. Our staff has done a really nice job this year, I think, with working with our guys. And then again, our kids just, they're stepping up and enjoying, competing and performing.
Hey, some of the things that I've had a chance to talk to a lot of the coaches around the state was, just the level of football this year compared to last year. Now, obviously you guys won a state championship last year, but, once again, it was COVID and all sorts of interruptions and craziness and all that kind of stuff. But getting the kids back to some sense of normalcy throughout the summer, being able to do the normal things that you like to do. Has that really helped you guys this year, continuing to keep the program at the high level that it's at?
Well, we weren't affected horribly last year as far as our preparation goes. I mean, we had a really special group of kids, but we were able to, kind of do our work throughout the summer and then right on into the fall. We had to modify some things, but we were able to do most of our work. So I do think continuity is very key. Our kids were able to, from the summer a year ago all the way through, our schedule's been kind of the same as what it was before we had that break where we were forced out of school. And that's helped a ton for everybody's schedule. They know what to expect. They know, where they're supposed to be and when they're supposed to be there. And, that allows you to, I think, improve.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about your kids. And I think offensively, I've been a big fan of the offense that you've run for many, many years. I love the, get it and go and up tempo and that kind of stuff. But you've got another great quarterback. And talk a little bit about him and just how he handles this offense and puts your kids in positions to be very successful.
Cameron's done a really good job. Cameron Marchie he's been a backup the last couple of years. He's been backing up his cousin. And, we felt, in our program that there's a good likelihood that if he was at another school, he could have started for a lot of different places, but he wasn't good enough to beat out the kid that was first team All-State quarterback for 3 years in Class 5. And so he just kind of had to wait his time, and he's been super focused from the time the end of last season came right on through. He's been focused. He's gained confidence, accuracy. He just understands the system so much better. He's making really good decisions. I'm super proud of him. And really it's a testament to kids waiting their turn and not quitting and going on to something else because it's hard and because they're not in the spotlight early on. He's stuck with it now. Believe it or not, he is truly the first time that I've had a kid that's been a first-year starter as a senior in all my years of coaching. So he's been able to do that, and there's been some growing pains, but he's minimized those with his preparation. He's been really, really good, and I feel like he's still improving every week, and that he's playing the best football of his life.
And it doesn't hurt when you've got some weapons around you that you can get the ball out to. And Tony Williams, what a year he's having for you guys.
Yeah, Tony is playing hard and physical again. Last year he got dinged up with a shoulder, had surgery in the off season. He was splitting time though with Daniel Dickerson, and Daniel was a first team All-State back, but Tony was a great 1-2 punch with those two guys. And so I'm pleased though with how Tony has continued to progress. He's a very savvy football player. I feel like we could play him at any skilled position that we have, and without even a whole lot of practice, he'd recognize formation and offensive concept. We could play him about anywhere, which allows him to play fast. And then he's a tough physical kid.
And the big thing I like about him too is he loves to run straight up. He keeps the shoulder pads level. He gets that first step, and he sees the hole very nicely. And you don't see a lot of that out of a lot of kids. being able to recognize where that hole is and getting that first step through it.
Right. Yeah. There's not a lot of dance with him. He makes a decision. He's definitive, and he goes, and he is really good at changing level with his pads, and he runs physically. I think he's got the chance maybe to be the best back that we've had here.
You talk about the running back, but also you got a couple great receivers as well that Cam can get the ball out to. Talk about those guys.
Yeah, Canon Turley was a first-team All-Stater last year, and he started a little bit for us as a sophomore as we went through the 2019 season. He's continued to improve. He's a physical kid. He runs good routes. He's improved his speed. He catches the ball well. He high points it well. He's unselfish. I mean, he's a great teammate and a great leader. Been very pleased with him. He hasn't gotten a whole lot of touches, but as you look at kind of how our season has went, there's been time. Well, we usually try to go fast, but if the game's out of reach early, then we're really limiting our number of snaps. And so this season, we are almost dead even as far as number of offensive snaps per game as where we were last year.
Defensively has been where you guys have hung your hat. Last year in that terrific run for the state championship. This year, once again, I mean, just talk about those kids on the defensive side. And the thing that I really love is your D-line. Nobody gives those guys the credit that they deserve, but I'm telling you, your D-line is one of the best in the state that I've seen in an awfully long time.
Yeah, I felt like last season at the end of the year, we were going to miss those seniors a bunch because we had so many kids that were so special, all in the same class. But we felt like coming back, we had an opportunity to be really good in the offensive line, and we felt like we had an opportunity to be really good in the defensive line. And one of the things I'm most proud of is our defensive linemen here at Jackson. For some reason, they have built in them a certain level of pride that it doesn't matter how big they are, they're going to put their hands on the offensive lineman and they're going to try to squeeze their gap. They're not going to run away and they're not going to get rolled up. They battle and they fight and they play bigger than they are. And, we've had that now for the last 6 or 7 years where we've had guys that you wouldn't think they had any chance to hold even with a guy that's so much bigger than them. And then they just, at the end of the game, it's like, wow, they didn't knock us off the ball. And we've got guys like that again this year. Alex Lewis is a kid that's undersized. He's about 200 pounds. Mark Braycane's about 240. Reed Landers is about 260. And then Tony Terry's about 240, 245. And so they're not huge, but, man, they play well with their hands and they squeeze and they're unselfish. And I'm really proud of that group.
And then obviously on the back end of the secondary has done a terrific job as well. You've played some pretty good teams. I mean, O'Fallon, Illinois, they love to pass the ball. They're pass happy. Cardinal Ritter, you had a chance to play them twice this year.
Yeah.
But the secondary I think has really stood up for you guys as well. Building off of last year.
Yeah, exactly. I think everybody's bought into what we're doing. Flint Williams, back there at safety, he was a first-team All-Stater last year, and he's a wrestler, and so he's a kid that we trust him to come up, shoot, and tackle. But then he's also long. He's about 6'2", and he's got good speed. So and add into that the fact that he's a really savvy football player. So he's able. Not very often will you catch him coming up when you're going deep with the pass. So it can happen to any kid, but he's been really, really sound for us. And our other secondary guys have just continued to play hard and improve. Blake Blackman's a 3-year starter for us back there. Gavin Williams helped us a little bit last year as a freshman, and he's doing a nice job. And then TJ Altenthal has really stepped up as a sophomore this year and made some really big plays against Fallon and some of their athletic receivers. So we're certainly pleased with those guys and how they've performed. It's not easy to be back there on the backside, and they keep plugging along.
Let's talk a little bit about Seckman because Seckman. I mean, they've really turned that program around over the last couple of years. I know you were familiar with them, from down there, and also a couple of your other previous stops. But, this Seckman team is a team that if you're not ready for what they're going to run offensively, they can come up and get you. So talk about how you guys are preparing for Seckman in that district championship this week.
I think it's kind of like a team when you're prepping for the option. It's kind of like that where you have to have specific segments to prepare for them, and you have to be very focused in that area. Their offense is so much, outside of the box. as far as every other offense you prepare for. It's like, hey, you know, they're going to line up like this, and this is how we line up to it. And there's not a whole lot of time that you have to spend on checks or specials or anything like that. And with this group, you know, it's just different. It's so heavy run. You know, with it being unbalanced, the quarterback is carrying it the majority of the time. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors as far as motion and pullers and whatnot. And so there's a lot to prepare for. And the bottom line is, whatever else is happening, they want to be physical and they want to get downhill. And so if you start matching all these other things and forget about squeezing and leverage, that's when they get you. And they've done a really good job with the offense, with the system. Their kids are playing with confidence. They've bought into what's going on. I'm sure their coaches are really proud of where their program's at right now.
Class 5 in general. We were just talking a little bit ago, and I've been saying this, following it up here in St. Louis and following it around the state. I think Class 5 is the deepest class of all the 6 classes this year, especially when you've got you guys. You've got Carthage down on the bottom end of the bracket. You've got Rockwood Summit, who's been playing terrific football. You got Eureka. Then you look over on the other side, the usual suspects, Zumwalt North, Holt, which made the jump down from 6 to 5 this year. You know, but talk about just how you feel Class 5 is different than what it was the last couple of years.
Yeah, you know, add into the fact that, you know, Ladue coming up, Webb City coming up, Platte County coming up, you know, the Helias Class 4 state champion coming up. So, I mean, yeah, Class 5 has really gotten loaded over the last few years with the best teams and, of course, the biggest teams, but the best teams in Class 4. It's made it a lot more challenging, you know, that's for sure. I think Class 4 is a tough class as well. But, yeah, you're right. And we didn't even mention Webb City, who's won more championships than anybody. You know, they've got a big game with Carthage this week. So, you know, you start looking at it, and then, you know, add into the fact that, you know, Lebanon is another difficult matchup team, as is Glendale. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.